Konstantin Borisovich Kostya Tszyu is a Russian-Australian former professional boxer who competed from 1992 to 2005. He held multiple light-welterweight world championships, including the undisputed and lineal titles between 2001 and 2005. Tszyu was an exceptional all-around boxer-puncher who relied heavily on accuracy, timing, and carried formidable punching power. He is often regarded as one of the hardest punching light welterweights in the division's history. As an amateur, Tszyu represented the Soviet Union, winning a bronze medal in the lightweight division at the 1989 World Championships, and gold in the light welterweight division at the 1991 World Championships. He also won consecutive gold medals at the 1989 and 1991 European Championships. In 1995, Tszyu won his first of many professional world championships at light welterweight, the IBF title, by defeating Jake Rodríguez. 5 successful defenses were made until an upset loss to Vince Phillips in 1997, which was Tszyu's first professional defeat. He would spend the next 8 years undefeated, winning the vacant WBC title in 1999, and the WBA Super title in 2001. Tszyu scored arguably his most famous win that year, when he knocked out Zab Judah to reclaim the IBF title, as well as the vacant Ring Magazine and lineal titles, thus becoming the first to undisputed light welterweight champion in over 30 years. In 2005, in what would be his final fight, Tszyu was stopped by Ricky Hatton. Tszyu is considered by many in Australia to be a national sports hero. In the Ring's March 2010 issue, Tszyu was ranked as the #1 light welterweight of the 2000s decade. In December 2010, he was inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame for the class of 2011. From 2012 to 2013 he coached professional boxers Alexander Povetkin, Denis Lebedev, and Khabib Alekvirgiev. Tszyu was born in Serov, a town near the Ural Mountains, in the former Soviet Union to a Korean, paternal Mongol, maternal, father, and a Russian mother. Tszyu's father was a fitter in a metal factory, whereas his mother was a nurse. As a child, Kostya was hyperactive, so his father decided to take him to a boxing gym, where he would channel that energy by fighting older boys. He impressed the Soviet amateur team coaches, and he was sent to the Soviet Union's amateur boxing traveling training camps, where he visited more than 30 countries while training and fighting in tournaments. He trained with that group 250 days a year, and won various tournaments, such as Amateur Boxing's World Championships. At the Cuban World Championship tournament in 1987, he came in second place, and at the 1988 Summer Olympics, he lost in the third round. Tszyu was a member of the Soviet Army, but since he was selected as an elite athlete, he was not required to serve the ordinary duty. He fought at the World Championships once again, in Moscow in 1989, where he came in third place. In 1991, he went again to the Amateur World Championships, this time held in Sydney. This was a trip that would change his life forever. Not only was the third time his charm, but he felt enchanted with the sights of Sydney and its people, and decided he wanted to live in Australia. Following the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, early the next year, Tszyu emigrated to Australia with his girlfriend, where they married in 1993, and became Australian citizens, settling in Sans Souci, Sydney. Before marrying her, though, Tszyu had already turned professional, beating Daryl Hiles by a knockout in 1 round on March 1, 1992, at Melbourne. He was the only Soviet boxer to win a gold medal at the 1991 World Championships in Sydney. Immediately at the championships he was approached by local boxing promoters, and he has decided to pass up the 1992 Summer Olympics in favour of a professional career. A week later he had signed with Australian promoter Bill Morty as his manager, and Johnny Lewis as his trainer in Sydney. Tszyu finished his amateur career with 270 fights, 259 wins, 11 losses, no stoppages, and no draws. His professional debut was scheduled to take place in January 1992. Morty described Tszyu as the best boxer he had seen in the past decade. Tszyu started raising his quality of opposition almost immediately. In his 4th professional bout, he met the former WBC featherweight champion Juan Laporte, decisioning him over 10 rounds. In his 6th bout, he beat contender Sammy Fuentes by a knockout in the first. Fuentes would go on to win a world title years after being handily beaten by Tszyu in 1993. Steve Larimore, Larry Lacroix, and Robert Rivera went to Australia to fight Tszyu, and none lasted more than 2 rounds. The only man to last more than 2 rounds with Tszyu in 1993 was Livingstone Bramble, a former world lightweight champion, who lost by decision to Tszyu at Newcastle, New South Wales. In 1994, Hector Lopez, Angel Hernandez, who had just come off of a loss after challenging Julio Cesar Chavez for the WBC belt, and Pedro Chinito Sanchez from the Dominican Republic tried to beat Tszyu, but Tszyu beat Lopez by a decision in 10, Hernandez by a knockout in 7, and Sanchez by a knockout in 4. After the win against Sanchez, Tszyu was ranked number 1 in the light welterweight division. In 1995, he received his first world title shot when he fought IBF light welterweight champion Jake Rodríguez at Las Vegas, Nevada. Tszyu became world champion by knocking Rodríguez out in the 6th round. He then defended the world title, beating former super featherweight and light welterweight world champion Roger Mayweather by a decision in 12, Hugo Pineda by a knockout in 11, Corey Johnson by a knockout in 4, and Jan Bergman by a knockout in 6. After this string of defenses, Tszyu became a highly touted world champion by many boxing magazines, and many articles about him appeared on The Ring, KO Magazine, and other American boxing publications. 1997 began for Tszyu when his defense against Leonardo Moro Mas was declared a no contest because Mas camp protested that the blow that finished their fighter in the first round was actually thrown after referee Joe Cortez had called for a break. Undecided whether it was or was not after Cortez called for a break, the IBF and the Nevada Athletic Commission decided to declare it a no contest instead. For his next bout, however, Tszyu wasn't as lucky, and he lost for the first time, losing by a knockout in 10 rounds to Vince Phillips, who also took with that, Tszyu's world championship. After beating former world champions Calvin Grove, KO1, and Rafael Ruiz, KO9, Tszyu was given another world title try, when the WBC's belt became vacant in 1998 following Oscar de la Hoya's move to the welterweight division. Tszyu found himself twice on the canvas in round 1 of his fight for the interim belt against Diosbel Hurtado, but recuperated to beat Hurtado by a knockout in 5. He became world champion once again in 1999 by knocking out former world champion Miguel Angel Gonzalez in 10, and twice retained it in 2000, beating Arizona's French contender Ahmed Santos in 8, and a 38-year-old Mexican legend Julio Cesar Chavez, the former world champion, in 6 at Phoenix, Arizona. Kostya was interviewed by Ray Wheatley on YouTube in 2011, and stated he regards his win over Miguel Angel Gonzalez as his best ever performance. Tszyu then began pursuing his wish to unify all the belts. In 2001, he began by facing WBA champion Sharmba Mitchell, taking the belt by a TKO after 7 rounds. Mitchell suffered a knee injury in training, and during the bout. His next fight was against the German Turk, Oktay Erkal. Tszyu finished 2001 by recovering his IBF belt in a unification bout with the current champion Zab Judah, by a knockout in the 2nd round. A small melee inside the ring followed that fight when Judah attacked referee Jay Nady for what he felt was a premature stoppage, reacting by throwing his corner's seat at the referee, and even trying to choke Nady with his glove at one point. However, replays clearly showed Judah walking on wobbly legs. As a result, Tszyu became the first man in 30 years to unify the belts in the light welterweight division. Tszyu in 2002 had only one bout, beating the top-ranked contender of all 3 of his belts, Bentaki of Ghana, by a decision in 12 rounds. Tszyu lost only 1 round on only one of the judges' scorecards in a masterful display of boxing. On January 19, 2003, Tszyu began the year by retaining his title against former world champion Jesse James Leah by a knockout in 6. After the fight, held in Melbourne, Tszyu announced that fight could be his last in Australia, due to pressure from promoters to fight in the United States. The win against Leah came on the birthday of Tszyu's son. His first fight in 2004 was supposed to have been held on 7th of February in a rematch against Sharmba Mitchell. It would have been Tszyu's first fight as a professional in Moscow, but Tszyu injured his shoulder during training. He had successful surgery to correct the problem, but the injury further extended his absence from the ring. The WBA stripped Tszyu of his title for choosing to fight Mitchell instead of their regular champion, Vivian Harris, while the WBC stripped Tszyu for refusing to fight their mandatory, Gianluca Branco. On 6th of November, he and Mitchell finally had their rematch, with Tszyu knocking Mitchell out once again, this time in 3 rounds. Tszyu was voted Comeback Fighter of the Year by Ring Magazine. He next fought on June 5, 2005, against British boxer Ricky Hatton. Tszyu lost this fight, and his world title by RTD, referee technical decision, after retiring on his stool at the end of the 11th round. He was also behind on all 3 cards, by 1, 3, and 5 points. On January 30, 2007, rumors spread of a Tszyu comeback. However, there was no confirmation. In April 2010, rumors about a possible comeback of Tszyu spread again. He continued to train, and stays in shape since his 2005 loss to Ricky Hatton. On April 19, 2010, Tszyu appeared on Long Lunch Today, an Australian TV program. During the show, he denied his retirement, and said he would return if a fight with Shane Mosley, Manny Pacquiao or Floyd Mayweather Jr. could be made. Tszyu married Natasha Anakina on September 24, 1993. He has 3 children, Anastasia, Nikita, and Tim. Nikita and Tim are both boxers. Tszyu initially moved with his family to Moscow in 2008, but they returned to Sydney, New South Wales, Australia. In September 2012, Tszyu left his family in Australia while he moved full-time to live in Russia. Tszyu is now married to Tatiana Avrina, with whom he has 2 children, and runs a restaurant in Moscow. Tszyu is an animal lover who owns several pets including Viking, a Rottweiler who has been Tszyu's companion since he arrived in Australia, Jake, his pet diamond python, canaries, and fish. Tszyu appeared with the animals on the pet show Harry's Practice in 2002. Tszyu has been in several court battles with his managers. Most recently, his ex-manager Susie Bennell took him to court, alleging Tszyu owed her money. Tszyu was also ordered to repay $3.5 million to his former manager Bill Morty in an unrelated civil suit. In journalist Paul Kent's biography of longtime trainer Johnny Lewis, allegations were made that Tszyu had underpaid Lewis for his services. The dispute was settled out of court. Tszyu has a professional record of 34 fights, with 31 wins, 2 losses, and 1 no contest.